All right, cool. So, Conka, what's going on, bro?
All right.
You all
Who's
right?
this?
This is Curtis, man.
Okay.
We briefly spoke the other last week. I had called you, hadn't talked to you in a minute. I probably ain't seen you since my first wedding, which was a honor to have you here. But I'm gonna reiterate kind of like what I'm trying to do and what the purpose of this phone call and what we trying to capture. But I kind of just living, just keep, always see when something happens to somebody or someone or somebody's no longer with us, people always post stuff on social media. People always have nice things to say about them when they're not here. And just ever since I had my daughter, it kind of opened my eyes up to different things. And I always think about if for some reason I'm never here, I want somebody to be able to know what kind of made me and got me to where I am. And I believe firmly in giving people their roses when they're still here. So I was thinking about a series that I wanted to do. Probably when my daughter was born about 3 years ago, I called and did the same thing with my mom and dad, and my wife's mom and dad, and her aunts, just in case their grandparents weren't around. I wanted them to be able to explain their life to them in their own voice. We're not doing that, but I'm calling you because you had a profound impact on my life. And I just kind of wanted to talk to you about it and capture it on tape so that if anybody ever looks at me and thinks I'm doing something great and wonder what kind of got me to where I am, I want them to hear directly from the people that had an impact on my life. So that's the purpose of this phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start where I first met you, man. I think how old do you have to be to play T-ball? 5 or 7?
Uh, Let me see. From what I understand, the first year that I coached T-ball was, let me see, it was April 1979.
Exactly. So
And,
I was 7 years old.
okay. And from what I understand, you had played T-ball the year before in 1978, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. You was my first coach.
Okay.
Yeah, I had never. I mean, we always played baseball, basketball, and football, but baseball was the first thing that I ever played, and that was the first time that I had ever played was on your team.
Okay. You didn't play the previous year for John Sadler?
Nope, don't even know who that is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what I want to know is like how old were you when you were coaching us, and what made you start coaching baseball?
Well, number one, I always had a love and a passion for the game, because baseball, of course, got introduced to me by my father. I remember as far back as 1966 when you had. I remember Sonny Koufax pitching in his last year. Pops used to take me when I was in diapers. So anyway, I've been in love with the game since diapers, as far back as like I said, 1966. So, of course, anyone who knows me knows I'm a diehard Yankee fan, but of course, I bleed Dodger blue as well, and I'm just a big a
How
big
old
fan of the game.
how old were you when you were coaching us?
16. I was a sophomore in high school.
What?
The reason I was a sophomore in high school, 16. It
Really?
was March. It was March of 1979 when I decided to get into coaching. Reason being is because I had tried out, for the JV baseball team at Banning High School. Of course, you're alumni too, and of course, I was cut from the team. So, still having that love or the passion of the game, um, I said, well, might as well give coaching a try, and might as well start off with T-ball.
So was
You
that your
know,
first year coaching?
that is correct.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? And then
Nine,
back then, did we didn't even really have assistant coaches, right?
no, no, I didn't have for T-ball. I didn't have an assistant coach. It was not until a couple years later that I actually had an assistant. You know, it'd be nice if you did have assistant coaches, for T-ball, because of course, kids are much younger and they're still developing and everything, and it's more work. The younger they are, the more difficult it is to coach.
So
I mean,
so
because
so
you,
no, go ahead.
because you got to start from the basics. Kids are still developing. I mean, you're 6, 7 years old, and still still trying to learn how to catch and throw a ball and everything.
So where did you get your patience from, or where did you get your, I guess, your coaching style from? I mean, where did you get all of that from?
Uh, like I said, having a passion for the game. Anytime you have a passion from it, you always look and you learn from others. I guess my years when I did play Little League myself, and then just watching baseball games and stuff.
So from what I
Uh,
remember, what I remember, which was crazy, is I don't think that there were any other coaches like you. That's why I'm wondering, like, where'd you get your? I mean, you 16 years old, you ain't chasing girls, you ain't at school, you have the discipline to come to practice. We probably practiced every day. You had that
for,
type
for,
of
for,
discipline.
yeah, because I mean, just like if you're going to do something, you might as well do it right. And I just didn't want to do anything half-assed.
So people that don't know Martin, can you talk about some of your coaching techniques that you used to use on us? Do you remember
Uh-huh.
what you used to do to us?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Can you talk
unfortunately,
about how we started practice off by running about 2 miles, 7 years old?
starting off by running around the park, and I know that was, like cumbersome. I know for children, I mean, running around the whole park, I mean, it was like Jesus Christ, just like a country mile. Yeah, I was rough, and I guess my tactics were, too demanding, too military-ish. Um, I
I
don't know,
mean,
because
where do you go? And my thing is that's why I'm calling you, is because I appreciated it. Like, I mean, it was nothing, for a long time from T-ball. I mean, I played on your teams. I don't know how I always ended up on your teams. Y'all must have had some type of draft or something, but every year that I played on your team, we always came in first place, and I probably played on your team from T-ball up to 2 or 3A. I never knew how I ended up on your team, because y'all would have drafted. But every year I ended up on your team, and like even when I was in college, and we had a tough coach, George Perlis, it was nothing that any coach could say to me that I hadn't already been through just coming through your system. You know what I mean? I'm serious. I mean, I remember when my mom and them, whenever they used to try to put me on punishment, they would try to take my allowance. They would tell me I couldn't talk on the phone, couldn't play games, and it really didn't bother me. And the only thing that they ever had was when they threatened to take me off the team. It was
uh-huh.
times I remember, you don't know if you remember, you used to kick people in the back of the heels, and you had all kind of techniques. When we got the 1A, you used to make us get hit by the ball because you didn't want none of your players crying during the game. So we used to have to stand up there, practice, and you would throw the ball at us, and we'd have to get hit. And we did all
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
that was something. Part of my training technique is, that was something I tried to instill in my players, as far as, okay, know what it's like, and know what it's like, and feel what it's like to get hit by a pitch ball or a batted ball, because it is going to happen, you know. And the best thing to do is just like, like there's no crying in baseball. I mean, and that's a lot of the stuff I had said or done was, you know, I had already been doing before it became part of a movie, or part of a cult, or saying. Um, it was just, I
Now,
don't know,
did
just
you catch a lot of flax from other people's? I mean, from parents or anything that thought you were too hard? Did a lot of kids quit? Or, I mean, we had the best uniforms. We had the best. We was in shape. We won all the time. We used to go to Rosario's. We worked hard. You know what I mean? But you were very hard on us. And Was that a problem with other people's parents being that, I mean, you 16 years old and you was going that hard? Did people take issue with that, or people at the park try to calm you down or say anything?
Well, I remember the park director over the years, and like in the 3 or 4 years, that I did coach there, always told me that that there was always complaints or concerns, saying that I was too rough, or was you know too much like a drill sergeant, or too rough on the little kids, and I should ease up. And you know, of course, I never had a problem. I mean, I did have some confrontations with, with some parents, or comments were made, and I basically said, okay, well, I mean, either one, I would go, when when the players are with me, I mean, they're on, it's my way, they're on my terms, and if they didn't like it or didn't appreciate whatever, basically said, well, take your ball in your glove and go home, when they're with me, I mean, it's my time, you know.
So do you think those
So,
techniques would fly today?
unfortunately not, because I know I did things, I went, out of the realm. And, of course, I can, nowadays that, you can't hit, or, you can't touch, you can't even touch players anymore without being, getting lawsuit, or anything. Yeah, I was rough on you guys, and but things that I did then, I mean, there's no way you could do now, because in fear of getting like being sued or anything.
Right. So when you was doing that, did you have any type of hope, like my plan is to instill discipline in these guys, and instill toughness, teach these guys how to grow up to be, men? Or, I mean, were you just doing it, or did you have a coach that coached you like that or something? Or, I thought you had came from the service, man, like how militant and how organized and disciplined it was. I had no idea that you was only 16-year-old. That's why I was keep saying, like, where did all of that come from to sit there and be like, I'm going to run these guys. I'm going to make sure these guys are in shape. I'm going to make sure they don't cry. I'm going to make sure we have real baseball hats with the green thing underneath it. These guys are going to have the best uniforms. They're going to look the cleanest. They're going to tuck their shirts in. I mean, we never had a conversation because, you were always older, but just now, those are the things that make me wonder about people, like, where did that come from? And, like, what were you hoping to accomplish? Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, so I mean, like I said, when I first started coaching, since I didn't make the junior varsity baseball team, and that's why I decided, well, let me get into coaching, or I still want to be involved in the game. And you got to remember, during my time, it just like, there was no cable TV, there was no internet, there was no DVDs, or no, not even VHS was barely, like coming around. And TV wise, we only had like the basic channels, like 2, 4, 6, no, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. If you're lucky, you would get some of the UHF channels. But I mean, there was, as far as media wise, there was nothing, to go by or to learn by. So you just learn by, watching others, or actually going to either, learning, watching others, like other coaches, going to a lot of ball games, or basically the best form of knowledge was, reading, of course, to this day, like I have a lot of books as far as baseball, as far as about the game, the history, past, managers and players. And since, I've been around the game since 1966, if you would ask me, anybody who's played after 1966, I could tell you that I saw them play. Um, Pops, who was also a baseball guy, gave me some influence, but some guidance, and he passed on his knowledge. but a lot of it, I mean, it just kind of like came. A lot of it was pretty much instinct, and that's
I mean,
pretty much
had you played for a coach like that? Like, I didn't. Like I said, it being so young and thinking about it, it just everything, and maybe I'm wrong, but and you were coaching with other people, but other people weren't doing that. So that's why I keep like the curiosity is like what like did you think you was doing something different? Like when you looked at the other coaches that was coaching in our league and stuff like that, and the other kids and the way they were doing it, did you think you was doing something different or?
I didn't think I was doing anything different. I just wanted to do things better or do things right, because what I observed, maybe a little bit too, I don't know if it was too lenient or they just weren't being taught right, you know. And basically, when I decided to get into coaching, it's like, okay, I'm going to go out there and coach and to teach, and teach the game. I'm not going to go out there and babysit, right? Because I made that decision from the get go. I'm not going to go out there and be a babysitter or daycare. So, did I have something to prove? No. Did I want to prove something? No. It was just, I guess it was just, I don't know, installed in me. It just became part of me, or it just came natural to me.
Yeah, I mean, is that
That
how your dad kind of brought you up to work hard and do the best that you could? And, if you're going to do something, go all the way? Is it your parents? Is that where you think you got that from?
pretty much, pretty much. My mom was a homemaker, so and of course, and then our father, he was a provider, so of course, since he was a provider, he worked quite a bit, and um, I wish that maybe he could have spent a little bit more time as far as helping me develop as an athlete, or as an athlete. But I have no regrets or anything, because I know Pops worked 7 days a week to be a provider and have to take care of his family. And whatever time that he made, for his his children, of course, you had to take advantage of that, and take advantage of that, and absorb that. You know, my pops was a working man, and of course he was like a foreman. So of course, he worked a lot of hours. So it's understandable why and of course, reason why pops wasn't around, 6 days a week, because I mean, he was a provider. He worked, and
Real quick, Martin. So for you, when you were coaching, what joy or satisfaction did you get out of coaching? I mean, was there a comparison to playing and coaching that kind of satisfied a need, or what did that do for you?
well, the satisfaction, of course, the ultimate satisfaction is, of course, I coach to win. Of course, winning's not everything, but of course, that's the ultimate goal. You want to win, and the satisfaction I got is whenever you would show a player how to do something, and then they executed it, and they executed it. You would tell them, how to pitch, or how to feel, or how to hit, or a game situation, and when it was performed and they carried it out, or they excelled at it, that's where the satisfaction was, and the teamwork and camaraderie. Of course, that's very important. You got to have. Baseball is a team sport. It's not an individual sport. So that was my satisfaction.
Now, can you tell me how I always ended up on your teams?
Um, I guess. Um, I was fortunate enough to have a good rapport with the park director and the staff over the years. And like I said, I had that first year that I did coach t-ball. I mean, your name came up. Could have been through my sister Lupe, who brought up your name, and of course she knew of Randy Woolridge's older brother named
Eric
Lewis.
Lewis, yeah.
So that first year I coached, I did recognize some of the players, and I guess I was just blessed that I was able to pretty much like handpick my team. And I was fortunate enough over the years when I coached in 79, 81, 82, and 83 that I was fortunate enough to have that core, to have that core group of players there was always you and, Randy Woolridge, Bob Whitfield, and
Manuel, Mo was on our team.
Manuel Osborne.
Right.
So having a core group is very important. That you guys were like the glue. I mean, that's why the Yankees, under Joel Torre's leadership from the mid to late '90s to the early part of the 2000s, that's why his teams were so successful because he had that core group.
So when you guys were coaching, did they allow you to identify certain people, or did certain coaches be like, this is his guy? I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, when you think about it now, like you said, you didn't read any books or didn't study, but that's kind of how they do things now. A coach will get with a group of kids and they'll move up with the kids. I mean, it was interesting, just hearing it now to wonder why you didn't stay in T-ball. I mean, we literally went up together. When I went to 1A, you was at 1A. When I was at 2A, you was at 2A. So it's like you said, it's just looking at it, I never thought about that, but that's some of the stuff that's being taught now. They get a group of kids at a young age, they get a coach, they get a core group, and then the coach moves along with them. I mean, were you conscious of that then, or were you like, I'm going to start at T-ball, and once I master this, I'm going to move along? What, was there something to that, or it just happened that way?
I guess it just happened that way, and if I was going to continue on coaching, I mean, might as well stick with what works, and it was important to me, and I'm sure it was important to you guys, and since I didn't have any children of my own, I felt best it was okay. I started with these kids, and and then I'll move along with them. It's almost like over the years there have been many coaches, of course, that they would always move along with their children. So that's basically what I did. I just moved along with you guys, the core group.
So then I'm just wondering, I always tell people, like, I really feel like, I mean, I got a chance to get a scholarship to go to Michigan State University. I got offers from pretty much every 5 power conference. And I always tell people my favorite sport, or the sport that I was best in, was baseball. I mean, I was good enough in basketball, and I got a scholarship playing football, and I was good enough to be recruited by schools all over the country. I played basketball all the way up until I got to probably my 10th grade year. I stopped playing baseball at Banning because Banning was like a national powerhouse in football, and I wasn't seeing a lot of people go D1 playing baseball. And it was like, I remember my coach, he was like, this is Banning, man. We don't play more than one sport. Either you're going to play football or baseball, and that's it, or basketball. And Dominguez made me choose. And I literally, to this day, I'll be watching people play, and we didn't know all the things we didn't know. I used to pitch until they wouldn't let me pitch no more. I was throwing curves and drops and sliders, and by the time I got to high school, my arm was dead. We didn't have a pitch count. I didn't ice out or nothing like that. But I just, if you can speak on it, what did you identify early in that core group? The talent level, was it separated when we were young, or did you? I mean, I always, when I think back, I'm like, man, Martin always put me on the left side of the field, and now when I think about it, I guess that's because you had to be able to throw across the field because some kids' arms wouldn't work. And then if there was a batter up there that he thought was going to hit the ball to center field, he would move me to center field so we can throw the ball home. Is it something in the different kids that you recognize as a coach at an early on age, and you be like, man, these people may have an opportunity to be more talented athletically, or do you pick up on those things?
Well, I mean, I knew from the get go that you were talented all around, and you were just one of those just one of those kids that was. I knew that can play any sport well. Just a well-rounded athlete, whether it was baseball, basketball, football. You were just talented, all the way around. And of course, you always want to put your strongest players at positions where the majority or a lot of the action is. Like you know, at that age, the majority of your hits are going to go from center field on over. So of course, you always want to strengthen. You always want to strengthen. Your left side. From center to left. And we all know that, the plays have to be made to your right side. So, of course, right field, first base, and second base, you put your least
That's why that's
agile.
why that's why Bob played right field.
That's correct. And plus, he had a handicap too. So,
Okay. Uh,
neither Boobie's bad in his presence. So that's why Boobie always played right field or had him at first base.
played right
And
field and batted ninth.
and batting ninth and had him at first base.
Yeah.
Oh, but when he got a hold of one, he did.
hmm
So
So now, when I mean the kids that you coached, when they were very young, did you follow us? Did you follow them throughout high school, or you know what I mean? Did you keep tabs, or what was that like for you when you? I mean, do you take any satisfaction in seeing them succeed athletically and knowing that you probably or possibly had a big impact on their life?
it's very rewarding satisfaction, and yes, I did follow you guys. I mean, because once once the ball playing days were over, like because like it was after elementary and maybe after the first year in junior high, and you kids moved on, and then I moved on to something else. It was just hard to you guys being as teenagers and you guys were developing and find your own niches in life, and came to your own crossroads. It was difficult for us to stay together after that because you guys you were no longer you were going from boys into except that trade right there. Yeah, I want to keep that, but thank you so much. Thank you, Diane. But you guys were growing and were developing from kids into young adults. So of course it was difficult for us, to stay together, you know, post the years at Dolphin. But of course, I followed your career path and kept tabs on your development, Manuel's development, Randy's, and of course Whitfield, and uh, to see get drafted. Of course, you chose football, which was great because I knew you would exceed and excel, and you getting drafted and going on to a major Division I college. I mean, that was great, and to see Booby, get accepted at Stanford. I mean, wow, you know, if I guess Booby is just proved to everyone else, in the neighborhood that he's no dummy. I mean, because Of course, you got to have some smarts, and of course, you got to have some smarts or some skills and knowledge, and educated and well mannered, which he was. To be accepted at Stanford. I mean, and then to see Bob get drafted by the Falcons and go and play, professional football. I mean, he made, not only did he put Carson on the map, he put our neighborhood on the map, and and at the same time, he it's just like if he put all of us on the map,
Right.
and we were all extremely proud of Bob and his accomplishments. And of course, and then of course Randy went on to law enforcement, and he's still being a sheriff's deputy, and man, of course, he excelled at his own. He excelled
Endeavors.
in his own endeavors.
Yeah, I just talked to him yesterday. He said he owes you a call. So I mean that's huge, man. I mean those are. I mean you said you didn't. I mean at the time you didn't have any kids, but in a sense, those are
Because you
your
guys were my
kids.
kids, I
Yeah,
guess, in a
those are
way.
your
Yeah.
kids, man. And it's like I just like, man, it's just so like I didn't even put it all together, but that just made. I'm telling you, it made life so much easier to have. I mean, I played for Mr. Pearson and some other coaches, but that foundation of being challenged physically, mentally, and expecting nothing but the best, and working hard. That's like the whole foundation for everything. Like I just be wondering if people know the impact that they had on people's lives. I mean, that catapulted all of us to where we are. I mean, the hard work in the classroom, the doing the best that you have, never giving up, never quitting, even though it's hard, pushing your body to limits that you never been to, you know what I mean? Showing up to practice on time, being accountable. If you're late, you're going to run, you know what I mean? And staying late and, used to hit them fly balls after practice and give us money for all of that stuff. I mean, those were lessons that literally just went throughout, my lifetime. And, like I said, my whole thing is just to tell you personally, thank you. I mean, it's been a huge impact, and I mean, it was important for me to call you first. I mean, I've had a high school coach that gave me life lessons, and my college coaches, I never was really that close, whatever. But when I reflect on my life and all the things and the character, people talk about my character and my work ethic and my dedication. Man, I besides my parents, that came from you. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to personally tell you thank you, and just let you know that you had a huge impact on all of us. You know what I mean? And it was an honor for you to come out to my wedding, and to sit here and be like, man, I met Martin when I was 7 years old and I'm 44. And I can trace back a lot of my success to the things that he taught me when I was 7 years old. And it just makes me think about the importance. Like I always say, like, I wish I could have went back and coached at the park or coached at high school. I just never had the opportunity. So the people that are out there taking time out of their days, not being paid, not even having a kid on the team, and dedicating that time, man, you guys made a huge impact. And I just wanted to personally thank you, man. I mean, it really just meant a lot to my whole life.
Yeah. Well, I guess I guess I had a. Everyone has a mission in life, and I guess that was mine. And I just wanted to prepare you guys. Currently right now, I have a mission of my own, and right now is just to get better and get out of this hospital, and I mean, try to pass that on to my children. I mean, I have children now who are 10 and 7 who need me, but it's difficult when you're a single parent, and and they spent the majority of their time with their mother because for court order. And I got I got one more goal in life, or another mission, and that is to do that for my 2 children. And
Right.
right now is that I'm living or going to continue on living for them to.
Right.
And I want to be an impact in their lives, like I was to you guys,
Right.
you, Bob, Randy, and Curtis. I mean, and Booby.
Right.
Yeah, it means a lot.
All right. And I got one other question too. I wanted to ask you just well, two things that kind of stood out. If you can speak on them, because I'm not there, but it doesn't seem as if it's like that. Can you talk about just kind of Carson? Like, I mean, I always tell people, man, I never really realized, people's nationalities. It was a whole bunch of us. I didn't know people was Samoan or Filipino or Hispanic or, Latino or Asian or nothing. It was just, we just had kids and stuff. And then the other thing, if you can talk about just the park system that Carson had in place, because I don't really see that anymore, where we had about 7 or 8 parks with programs for the kids and the importance of, those things. So just Carson and kind of like the park system that we had in place. If you can kind of talk about, maybe what those things were like.
Well, I mean, of course, I was born, raised, and I still live in Carson, and and I still to this day live next door to the house that I grew up in back in the early '90s. Through the help of my parents, I was able to purchase the property right next door where I grew up at, and you know, Carson's in my blood, and and I'm gonna die in Carson. I'm not leaving Carson because you know, it, nowadays you have all this, um, just like when you have terms as far as diversity and all these other cliches and terms that are used nowadays. I mean, Carson invented stuff like that. You know, I was part of that. I could say in my generation, and my forefathers and the ones right after me, we're the ones who invented that. As far as diversity, because growing up, I mean, Carson, especially in that neighborhood of La Loma or the Cabbage Patch, I mean, it was like a big melting pot. Um, it was a big melting pot. Everyone got along with one another. My personal story is that growing up, of course, my mom was born and raised in Mexico, and of course my father was being an American citizen, and like his father, my father's family and my father's side of the family and all his ancestors all lived in this area since the days when it was still Spain. So my that side of the family has been here for hundreds of years already. And there's one thing that I always learned about Pop is that respect and other people and treat other people with kindness and everything. And what you what you what you give what you give is what you're going to get back. So you know if you go out there and act like an a-hole, you're going to get treated like an a-hole. But when you go out there and go out there and treat people with kindness and respect and everything, you'll get that in return. And growing up for me, I mean, I had a fantastic childhood, because all my friends were, African American, Filipino, Guamanian, Samoan, Caucasian, uh, Japanese, Chinese, whatever, and it our neighborhood was like a salad because it had everything in it. And like I said, I had a very pleasant childhood because there was no such thing as I never knew what the word discrimination, racism. I didn't know none of that. What none of that meant because I was not exposed to it. since I grew up around everything and everyone. It was not till probably I got my first taste of racism and segregation was eighth grade and junior high school at Carnegie when I would read about it or read about it, learn about it in history class, and I would say to myself, this really happened. This really happened in other parts of the country, really, because I was never exposed to it. And of course, our father, uh, didn't, of course they brought us up properly and not to judge anybody by skin color or skin color or their ethnic background. And I still feel that way to this day. Um, as far as Carson, unfortunately, the city of Carson, and their programs, it's a recreational ball, and the only ones that I really know to made it, like say, out of our neighborhood and to excel as far as being athletes and anyone else in the city of Carson that would play in the Parks and Recs the number one was football. I've never known or really heard about anybody coming out of City Carson that were made it to the NBA or to Major League Baseball. I mean, it's predominantly been football oriented. I mean, you go back to the likes of, you can go, anybody who's been to the City of Carson Parks and Recreation, anybody who's come out to go on to the NFL, I mean, you have the likes of, like Wesley Walker and Freeman McNeil and, Bob Whitfield and, Stanley Wilson, just to name a few offhand. I know there's been some others that came after that, Carson mainly generates, football players.
That's because I'm high schools. Yeah, but I just like I was
But,
saying, before I had my daughter, I was just puzzled. I mean, I know it's changed because I'm older, but how people have to travel for these kids, and I was like, man, we had about 9 parks in Carson, and every park had about
mhm,
4 teams in each division, and we would just literally stay in the city of Carson and go to like 8 or 9 different parks that had programs. You know what I mean? And it's like now all my friends that have kids, they on these traveling teams, and I'm like, man, y'all went from Michigan to Florida. Like y'all passed a lot of parks. And I guess, when we grew up, parks were a big part of things, but now it doesn't seem like they have that impact anymore. You know what I mean? And I just thought that we was always blessed for those city of Carson parks and rec leagues to have gyms at the parks and baseball fields and football fields and basketball goals. You know what I mean? And we was paying what, $20 or something to play.
correct, correct. I mean, I have not been involved with the City of Carson's youth program. Last time I was involved in any capacity, after my playing days and my coaching days, and after playing softball, for so many years, in 1998, I decided to try a different venue, and I got involved in being an umpire, baseball umpire. So I've been doing that since 1998, and for 3 years, 2000, 2001, and 2002, I would also officiate or umpire baseball for the city of Carson in the Parks and Recreation, and it just and for me that only lasted 3 years because of the caliber of play, the level of ball. It was just not there no more, and it's not it's not competitive because they only play like in the city of Carson, and that's that. I mean, if you want to advance or you want to challenge yourself and become a better player, you gotta leave the city of Carson play, unfortunately, play somewhere else or get on a travel team if you want to excel in baseball, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in the city of Carson because of its limited structure,
Gotcha.
and I don't think they have the resources to excel or expand. And since since it is Park Elect Ball, they choose not to. They choose to run their own program and control their own fate, as opposed to aligning themselves with pony baseball or a little league baseball organization, or pony baseball, or Cal Vic and a Conning Mack or a Babe Ruth league. And that's why players in Carson do not excel under the parks and rec system. They have
Gotcha.
to go elsewhere if you want to excel in baseball.
All right. Now, my last thing is, man, all of them people that you named are probably going to hear this interview, from Bob to Manuel to Randy to Lewis to a bunch of other people, even Peppy and, a couple of people that we still talk to. Uh, Anything you want to say, man? Anything any of us would be surprised to know about you, or you got anything you want to drop a message to these guys, or thank them, or just acknowledge them for anything that they did?
Well, I just hope them the best, and it'd be nice to have more contact, or more communication, with the core group and some of the other kids that I coached or coached against, and just hopefully that everyone excels in what they do. Um, it just like it brings me, I don't know, brings me joy, brings a smile to my face to know that that I was an impact or an influence in your guys' life. And trust me, I mean, you guys are also an impact and influence in my life as well, because looking back, I mean, it's like, could I have done things differently? Yeah. Um, you know, should I have done things a little differently? Of course, because I know my methods back then, of course, would not be acceptable today, but I would still install that hard work and that ethic and and the development. Um, would I do it all over again if I had a chance to go back? Most definitely. I would, you know, I would do it all over again. Uh, and just to, I don't know, have more reunions in the future, I guess.
All right. Well, we didn't know you were still in Carson, so we'll just be at your house. I'll be home for Christmas. I'm flying in on the 23rd. So
Oh, you will? Okay.
we'll have to set something up at Rosario's and let you pay for it.
Yeah, like
No.
maybe have a get together, either get together out at my house or do a little something at Rosario's or something there for old time's sake.
All right. Well,
Let's get,
that mean you got to get healthy, man, so we can see you at the house.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to, and I wanted to, and my goal was to be out of here by Thanksgiving so I could spend with the family. But unfortunately, I was told yesterday that I'm going to require a third operation, and well, I guess that's going to prolong me here. So I don't know when or how much longer I'm going to stay here. But now my goal is that I like to be home,
For
before
Christmas.
Christmas.
Right. All right, well, you got my word. We on tape. I'll make sure I come see you. We'll be there. Me and my wife, my daughter coming in. I think we're coming in on the 23rd. So I'll talk to you definitely before then. And, I mean, Randy and them are still right on the block. I just talked to Manuel yesterday. Hadn't talked to Bob, but he's floating between here and there. So if nobody else come, I'll be up there. You'll see me in California this year. You can mark my words.
Okay.
And again, thank you
All
for
right.
everything, and I appreciate you taking the time to to do this interview, man. It means a lot to me. It'll mean a lot to my daughter and some other people who I'm close to that they kind of want to know what makes me who I am. So thanks again.
All right. You're welcome, Curtis. And and thank you for, you know, I guess helping me, grow as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's a give and give.
Right.
All right, so yeah, man, it goes both ways, man. We can call you, you can call us.
Okay, will do. And I'm looking forward to that reunion here, next month.
Okay, I'll
Looking
talk to
forward
you.
to it.
I'll talk to you before I get there.
Okay, that
All
sounds
right.
great. Thanks,
Okay.
Chris.
All right. Thank you.
All right. All right. Bye-bye.